Hi, I'm Dr. Cheetah.
Hi, I'm Miss Daisy.
Nice to meet you. Let's sit down and we can talk about why you're here.
Okay.
So give me just a little bit of information on your concerns and like what questions you have for me.
Okay, my husband and I are both hearing.
Okay.
And we have 3 children who have some sort of hearing loss. The first 2 are already in school, but they're kind of having some issues with their placement, and our third is getting ready to start school, and I'd like some information about services that he can be eligible for.
Okay, perfect. Let's get started. So tell me about your first child.
She was implanted with a cochlear implant when she was 2.
Okay.
And she's also fluent in sign language, but currently she's having some difficulties fitting in with her peers.
Okay.
She's sort of facing like some rejection and isolation.
Okay, so she's in 2nd grade and she's profoundly deaf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, she's in a mainstream classroom right now, which may not be her best option. We like to have our kids in the least restrictive environment possible. And a mainstream environment with children who are hearing, it's probably going to be a little bit difficult for her to feel like she fits in, especially when she's struggling with her cochlear implant.
We're interested in TSD. What can you tell me about TSD?
Well, sometimes in mainstream classrooms, the teacher can't really hold realistic educational goals also because for the deaf children, they simply aren't aware of the child's learning needs and communication barriers with the rest of the classroom. So I'm glad you brought up TSD. That's a good option for her as a residential school. She would receive the majority of her classroom education from a teacher who is trained specifically to work with the deaf population. So, and 60% of the students there are severe to profound hearing loss. They have severe to profound hearing loss just like your daughter.
So that would make her feel more comfortable.
Exactly. And being around students who have the same sort of hearing loss that she does, they would also know ASL, and as that's y'all's main form of communication in the household, she would feel more comfortable communicating and wouldn't feel so out of place. Another option is a full-time special education classroom or a day school. In these special education classrooms, they would be provided separate education with a facility for hearing students. So like in a mainstream classroom that she's in now, she could be pulled out for, tutoring or special education with a teacher also more trained to do the deaf education. But like I said, the residential school would probably be your best option for her.
Okay. And our second child, he has not as severe hearing loss. He has hearing aids in both ears, and he is in 1st grade. And he seems to be flourishing and doing really well. I just wondered if you thought that was the best placement for him.
Okay. Well, seeing as how he does have functional auditory conversational skills, I think it's extremely important for him to be in a mainstream classroom with since he has functional auditory conversation skills, I think it's extremely important for him to be in a mainstream classroom. I think that's a very great placement for him because with the other 2 children in the house that are more severely deaf than he is, it sounds like ASL is your main form of communication. So it's really good for him to be around hearing peers where he can practice his auditory and verbal conversation skills, especially since he is flourishing in that way and has good conversation skills and isn't feeling isolated because of his hearing loss. And according to the IDEA section 300, the IEP team shall consider the communication needs of the child, which, like I said, is perfect for him. The communication needs, he's getting the ASL practice at home and he's getting the auditory practice at school. A few things that you may want to consider and just check up on in his mainstream classroom is that they are using an FM system. Every school is required to provide this.
What is it?
An FM system is a device that enhances the sound quality in noisy classrooms. It basically just is a device that the teacher wears and talks into that connects to the child's hearing aids.
Like a microphone?
So, sort of like a microphone. It just amplifies the teacher's voice so that he doesn't have to constantly combat with the noisy classroom and focus on her, but you'll want to make sure that when the teacher is using this FM system, she's repeating the comments and questions of the children in the class because they aren't wearing the FM system, the teacher is. So when a child asks a question, the teacher will want to repeat the question for your child and then answer it so he's fully aware of what's going on in the classroom.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
And another great thing that schools can do and that they're required to do is provide interpreters and resource rooms. It doesn't sound like he's really struggling in the classroom, but if
he's really smart.
Okay. Well, if you ever felt like he was starting to fall behind or needed some extra help, the school will provide an interpreter or a special ed classroom to kind of stay on top of things and give him a little extra help.
Okay, now what we really came to discuss is our third child, because he is entering school this year. Okay, well, since you already have two other children that are deaf or hard of hearing in the school systems, I'm sure you're familiar with the IEP, Individualized Education Plan, which you will, of course, need to have one for your third child as well. And your child is 5 years old, so he'll be starting kindergarten with a severe to profound hearing loss, and he cannot understand audible speech sounds without his amplification. No, nothing.
Okay.
His primary mode of communication is ASL. Okay. But we're kind of concerned that he won't like the cochlear implant because our first child has issues with it. Okay. So we don't know if we should put him in main school, like mainstream school, or put him in TSC.
Well, the mainstream classroom was probably the best bet for your middle child, seeing as how he can hear audible sounds and is functioning well with that. But since your third child doesn't function well with audible sounds or his amplification, I think your best bet would probably be TSD because he is fluent in ASL, and like I said, he will be surrounded by children who are also, and teachers who are also fluent in ASL, and it'll be much easier for him to feel a part of the children and a part of the classroom, the community, the deaf community. So it's not many other educational settings can offer the spontaneity and freedom of communication that you can find in a deaf school, especially for children who just can't hear those audible sounds. And what's so great about TSD is that they provide so many extracurricular activities, leadership opportunities, which he's only 5, but you can start him young with those leadership opportunities. Mentoring, their teachers are not only oftentimes deaf, but also have been trained in deaf education, so they can sympathize for the child, they can empathize for the child, and they can also know how to more accurately communicate with that child and get them where they need to be. And a lot of times children who are deaf find it easier to learn from someone who's been through the same things that they have. So I think that those are probably your best options. Do you have any questions?
I think you pretty much covered everything.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
your
your time.
No problem. Just give me a call if you have any other questions.
Thank you.